Need a motion to approve the minutes from August 7th?
No, I'll make the motion.
Oh, hold on for a second. It looks as if there's an issue with the copy of the minutes. If you'll look between page number 6 and page number 7. It doesn't seem to
I left something out.
continue.
It disappeared.
There's a big gap in there.
Which one, John?
Between 9 and, I think either 10's missing or something there.
On
So
your own?
9 to 11, okay.
I'd
Yep.
recommend tabling it
Yep.
until next meeting.
I see writing, but no indication of what it is. Yeah. It's probably 10 right
Yeah,
It was from 9.
Yeah.
9.
Is that 10 right there?
11. I'm assuming this must be 10.
Oh, so he wants to check that.
Yeah.
All right.
it looks like maybe right
Yeah.
here it was, yeah, there's just a blank line.
there.
Yep,
Yeah.
right. All right,
Okay,
we will
withdraw your
table
motion.
approval of minutes.
Okay, I'll make that.
We have a new public hearing for 22 Shaw Ave. Applicant here. If you want to set up, I will read it into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the Wetland Protection Bylaw, Rules and Regulations for the town of West Bridgewater. The Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing 21st of August, 2018, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a notice of intent filed by Earth Services Corp. On behalf of Sean Sullivan to replace an existing failed cesspool with a new 1,500-gallon tank, distribution box, leaching field within the buffer zone of a bordering vegetative wetland at 22 Shaw Ave. We're open.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mike Patno from Earth Services, representing the homeowners at 22 Shar Ave. And as you mentioned, this is
Before we go too far, green cards? Oh,
No.
never
Get
mind.
in there.
We're all set. Yep, go ahead. They weren't the green cards, they were the slips.
All right,
Time for a heart attack.
good.
Yep, nope.
And as you mentioned in your preamble, that we are proposing to put a new septic system to replace a failed system. The plan I have is slightly different from the one that was submitted because I addressed comments from the Board of Health.
Okay,
One of the things we did is we increased the size of the septic system. Well, I increased it on the side where where the proposed septic tank is, so it's not going any closer to the wetland. So the impact there's no additional impact.
There you go.
And we got an email from John, who was unfortunately late this afternoon, so I was not able to address any of his comments on our plan, so,
The house being sold.
yes, it is. It's for sale.
They have a closing scheduled?
I have not heard of any.
okay. So, John, do you want to go over your comments?
Sure.
just to-
Record, huh?
The engineers kept in contact with me, and then, of course, I went on vacation, so we had a gap in there until I got back and able to look at his plan. It's a good plan, and they've done all the proposed mitigation that meets our policy when you're that close to the wetlands. And they're proposing it to be 30 feet away. It's still that way, Mike?
Yes, it is.
And so in those cases there, we require the signs and a conservation easement on everything from the signs back to the wetlands. And as it turns out, the wetlands kind of parallel the yard anyway, so it's going to be a conservation easement on the wetlands that are already protected, but it really provides an additional layer of protection by emphasizing in the registry of deeds that there's an area protected on your property. The past history of this lot, the area behind the chain link fence looked like it had been used as part of the water feature that's behind the fence. It's like a pond or something. And so I think having the restriction on it will prevent that pond from being disturbed in the future. So
Where is that, John?
The pond is everything behind the,
And there's a fence that kind of.
Oh,
the chain link
okay.
fence.
Okay.
How high is the system out of the ground?
It's actually, we're trying to continue the existing grades that are in the high point
Mhm.
by the corner, and we're carrying it a little bit further, so about 20 feet further than where it was
So
currently,
enough-
so then it takes a 3-to-1 slope down.
So will there be grading in the 50?
Yes,
There will be.
yes. The actual system itself is within the 50.
Yep. And that's all gonna be lawn?
Yes.
And it's all lawn
All
right
lawn right
now.
now.
Yep.
So how high is it?
It's gonna be, the closest edge to the wetland is gonna be about 1.5 feet higher.
And my report indicates he didn't ask for any waivers other than the waiver to be more than 50 feet, less than 50 feet away from the wetlands, and also the use of sieve analysis instead of being able to get down into the test pit and perk test it. They were asking the Board of Health to allow them to take a sieve sample, send it out to a laboratory, and determine how much percentage silt, sand, and clay was in the sample. And then they could extrapolate their perk rate from that, and they did that all in accordance with Title V.
Why would you do that, John?
Safety reasons, if the hole collapses too easily, or if the area you have to pull the sample out of is too deep to enter in without shoring and all the engineering that would require, the DEP does allow that on repairs, so that it keeps
Safety.
everybody safe.
So would you dig down a certain
Depth.
depth?
Yeah, we try to get to about 10 feet, just because the water table's so high,
And how do you
Yeah.
dig down with that?
with an excavator.
You do
It was
do-
a mini excavator, we used a small one.
Small one, okay.
Is it as reliable and all that as the same as the perk, as
Yeah.
a test would be?
You said you just got John's comments?
Yes, this afternoon. So I know there are additional things that he's asking for to be added to the plan, such as the pump out area and a stockpile,
Yep.
which we can add. My question is, originally had the erosion control kind of wrapping around here, just isolate the septic system. Now if we're gonna have to add a stockpile area, is there a problem with putting the erosion barrier probably closer this way? Because we still need access in here for machinery. So I'm thinking of maybe going around the fruit tree on this side of it. See, I can try
Into
to
the tree.
I can try to keep the stockpile area outside of, behind the retaining wall.
Can this area be used?
Which area? Way down here?
Yep. That's all part of the lot.
It's all part of the lot. It's no further away from the wetland. I don't know if that matters at all.
What I'm thinking is that it's all yard anyway, and it's only a temporary thing for when they're working on it. They can put it back and stabilize it afterwards. So even though my report indicated this, and I did get the report to them this afternoon, and they didn't have time to show it on the plan. If the commission's okay with it, and you want to close it, we'll just won't issue the order until we get a revised plan. And we have 21 days after closing the public hearing to issue it, so the sooner they get it
Save
to us.
having to put it off another 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions, comments?
That's just to make sure, to find out where the detail of the pump out areas and stockpile areas.
Yes, basically that's it. And put the details on the plan.
Mm-hmm.
No
Fine with
problems
me.
with that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Hearing no other comments, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to grant a waiver to work within the 50.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And I will entertain a motion to issue a standard order of conditions pending the final revised plan.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Great.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just this one here. Yep.
Next, we have continued public hearings, 109 Spring Street.
Back again. Alright. So Greg Driscoll, Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, representing Jack Peters for the Spring Collins subdivision project. I got a couple of copies of the draft plans.
Thank you.
So tonight it continues. We met with planning board last week, and they liked some of the things I did, they didn't like some of the things I did. So we previously had overland flow coming across the road into this scupper here and then into a swale into the basin. I don't like the idea of having overland flow coming across the road. I think in winter, icing issues, stuff like that. We wanted to increase the slope of the road. That didn't really seem to leave their concerns. So in this iteration, we have crowned the road all the way up and to the end of the cul-de-sac. So the water will shoot each direction. This half of the road will continue to go into the basin. This half of the road will go into this new catch basin that we're showing here. And this is just a concept. We'll flush it out. Come up with more detailed plans after the meeting. And we're showing a new pipe coming out here to a little forebay area and then a swale out towards the wetland. We are showing a little bit of grading into the no-touch, just because it'll help us treat the stormwater to a higher degree before it gets outletted towards the wetlands. So we just need that extra space there to do that. And we're going to try to hit the design criteria for a grass channel. I talked to John earlier today, and we were talking about different types of conveyance, BMPs, grass swale, biofilter swale, stuff like that. I don't think the biofilter swale would work because we need to have a soil media below the bottom of the swale, and sometimes there's an under drain as well. So I came up with the grass channel as the latest TSS removal worksheet. So we don't hit 80%, but we can get it to 72% of TSS removal, which is pretty close to the goal of 80%.
One there.
Yeah.
So there's these two.
That'd be required if it
There's a
was,
hook here that's gonna be removed.
this is 3 lots, if it was over 4 lots.
Yeah,
And
these are
required to have the
two.
full extent of stormwater management. We would need 80% TSS removal, but something like this, we're getting close. And this setup over here gets 83% TSS removal with the little bit of a swell we have here, a forebay, and then 2 dry detention basin cells. In between these cells of this basin, these will be stone berms, so that the water can get through all the way. Because the bottom of each cell is at 61, so we want to make sure that gets out to the outlet control structure, and the basin completely empty between storms. Planning board asked that question about, well, the first 2 will, the last one will empty out, but will the first 2? So we're going to make those stone berms in between the different portions of that basin. So this is kind of what we came up with. We're continuing the swale from the back of this house to direct it towards this new catch basin. And we just barely get the cover we need over the pipe, and minimal slope, but it's gonna convey the water under the road and towards the.
So everything above that road is going into that catch basin?
Yep. I have a. Not sure how updated it is, but I do have a drainage areas map. Set. So that's the updated, but it would be from the midpoint of the road all the way up through here. So the swath would go into the catch basin. Everything else would go into the infiltration basin, or the dry basin.
So Greg, so that it's taking the off-street flow into that catch basin that you just introduced us to, there won't be a Cape Cod berm there, so it'll allow the water to come in? Is that?
There's enough grade here where it go over the curb at this point.
Okay, so that's what you're planning, is up over the curb and,
Yeah.
Okay.
And the grade will be that much, 3 inches or whatever the Cape Cod berm is, higher, and then up from there. So the road's
Okay.
a low point.
so we're not creating a dam, is what you're saying?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question, not directly involved, but when you grade, right, and it's graded to a specific height, do you account for settling when you do that?
Not really. They should go over, even if it's like your final landscape sodding,
Yeah.
loaming and seeding, they
Right.
usually go over it with like a little roller with water filled with it to kind of
Right.
pack it down.
Right.
So, and they should kind of fill in a little bit too to make sure it's
I
going.
never knew
sure.
if you put it in, and I'm thinking that depending on the soils, why wouldn't it settle 4 or 6 inches?
Yeah. Well, the road definitely is compacted and everything.
Yeah.
Those. So-
Okay.
John, comments?
Well, as he indicated, the outlet to the pipe that we're talking about from the catch basin to the wetlands on the south part of the property requires putting a grass drainage swale within the 50-foot no-touch out there. That would have to be a waiver that was granted, and I know that they've compensated for the other encroachments that they've made for the roadway, and they've provided that elsewhere on the plan to compensate for that, plus a little bit more if I remember correctly. So they overcompensated for what they actually disturbed of the 50-foot buffer. So that might balance that out. And I'm trying to look at the overall, we had 6 approved lots here. They were gonna be a huge impact on everything around them, including the cost of building it. But, someone could go ahead and do that, and I think might be a good trade-off from 6 lots down to 3. I think they've addressed most of the issues that we're concerned with. And so I really, I think at this point, they've done about as best they can to address both the planning board and conservation concerns that we've had up to this point.
I would agree.
And this is the area that we're doing the
Yeah.
buffer enhancement area here. And then these other areas where were cleared previously, past the 50-foot, there's going to be left to revegetate on its own. This is all from the previous.
That little stream still back there,
Yep.
on the north side?
There is one on the north too, yep.
Yeah, in
Oh,
there.
kind of
Yeah.
through this wetland here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So this isn't updated, that one's different now.
I'm all set.
We're gonna come up with, just looking at this, I know from the replication work that was done on the previous part of it, and some of the other projects we've had in town, during the construction and the first part of it, any type of invasive management plan for
Right.
this one? Because we already know that there are problems.
This one is an amended request, So the original order of conditions had a very specific conditions that related to what Tim was just talking about, that the homeowners that will be formed to take care of this common septic system will also have to take care of the common open space. And in it, it specifies they have to have a expert in invasive plants management, and they have to do yearly reporting on it, and they have to follow a invasive management plan. And so this amendment to the order of conditions will refer to the plan and then all other existing conditions that we've approved in the past. So wherever it said that they're gonna build 6 lots, of course, now it can only be 3, and then the rest of it all still is in place. So the answer is yes, there's gonna be a homeowners
Agreement.
association that pays for the vegetative management of the open space, the 50-foot no-touch areas, and requires the annual reporting.
How does that get into their documents, though, John?
So it'll be recorded, and as the homeowners association comes into effect, because
Right.
usually the builder starts off being
Yes.
the association,
All right.
they will then be aware of that as they purchase their property, although best intentions sometimes don't come true. Some people will say, I never saw that when we signed on the dotted line, but
Should
that's-
carry into the homeowner association
It
documents
definitely will,
somewhere,
yes.
yeah.
And then now, would that include the cleaning of the,
drain system.
Stormwater systems,
yeah,
most likely.
most likely? or
It's kind of up to the planning board whether they're gonna accept that with it. If the road gets accepted in the future, it's up to the planning board to recommend that they accept the entire drainage system or just what's in the road, and then what's outside the road could be
Oh,
left in the homeowners
We're not
association.
too sure if it's private yet.
So,
We've seen that before, and where, like I did a project in Canton, where they said they'll never accept the basin, that's always gonna be in a homeowners association, so here, make sure your homeowners association documents reflect that.
so what we did recently, where we knew the town, I think it's Luke's estate, Luke's Drive. We know the town is gonna accept Luke Drive, but the town doesn't wanna have anything to do with the bioretention systems and that kind of thing.
Right.
So the order of conditions requires that the homeowners take everything from the street layout onto their properties to the wetlands under their management. So the town doesn't have to do it. So we could do the same thing
Yeah.
here.
Good.
Yeah.
So that the town would take care of that catch basin in the street, but as soon as it got past the edge of the roadway and into the retention basins, I know the DPW doesn't want to spend all their effort cleaning these things out, so we're going to ask that the homeowners take care of it.
Finally?
Anything else? I mean,
So I think at this point, we can give him an idea that he can proceed to the planning board. We still need it to be reviewed by Nick Laney for stormwater. And Nick may say, well, for example, the 72% for the catch basin and the piping system doesn't meet the 80, then it has to be a decision that the commission makes, that you want to grant that 8% waivers when, in fact, the other one takes care of 83%. So now we're only 5 off totally for the whole thing, so it's a decision we can make at that
Yeah.
point, but I don't see it as a necessary evil to the whole thing.
All right.
all right, when are you meeting with the planning board again?
September 5th, I believe. That's our next meeting.
Do we want to carry this out till,
I'd recommend it to the 9th, to the 4th, I'm sorry, but do we want to go?
well, I'm just thinking that way that he can meet with the planning board before,
After.
right, instead of having to continue it again to,
Yeah.
where he really won't have to come back to see us, hopefully, until
Yeah.
the final.
So,
What was
The
next one
18th?
after that? The 18th?
want to do the 18th?
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to September 18th.
Motion to continue.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? So moved. Thank you. It was light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we have Stony Road, Clark Circle.
East Center Street.
Oh, I'm sorry. 265 East Center Street, sorry. Do we have anybody for that one? Seeing none, we'll,
Yep, you can.
go ahead, you can stand up, we'll, since they're not here,
I
we'll,
was just stretching anyway.
okay.
You only have to touch me.
We'll do Stony Road, Clark Circle, and circle back.
Yep, see you later.
John, you got the forms I sent, the request.
Yep.
You want to read it now, you want me to go through what we're doing?
Well, I gave him a report that you had asked to withdraw the notice of intent, so everything is outside the 100-foot buffer now. So there's no need to have a wetland filing, but because they're disturbing enough of the lot, they do qualify under the stormwater bylaw, an approval. So I said, why don't you just convert that whole hearing into the stormwater hearing process? Because theoretically, they're joint mechanisms anyway. And so that's where we're at now. So why don't you go ahead and explain what you've done?
If you remember the original subdivision we were proposing, the cul-de-sac came in basically in this area, and there was 4 lots in here. These are the 2 existing Form A lots that connect to Stony. And certainly after a couple of the meetings, the input from the residents and both the applicant and the homeowner came to an agreement that we'd apply to the planning board under 1 lot subdivision, which would create the road, but we asked for waivers of the construction. It really ends up just being a little oversized driveway. So we went into the planning board. I'm not sure I sent you this or not, John. This is just a letter for your file for the approval. I stopped them today for the plans, but the town clerk, they're waiting for the appeal period. It's all over.
Do you need this back?
I don't know.
Okay.
So what we did, we went to the planning board, and we had a meeting, went very well, and they approved the division as it were. Most, I don't see any residents here tonight, but a good part of the residents that were mostly concerned were here, or there at that planning board meeting. So it was good discussion, and they understood what we were trying to do. So basically, you can see where the 100-foot buffer is here, and where the 50, the small ponding area is, and the actual wetlands down here. What we've done, as you see, we've kept everything well outside the 100-foot, and just a larger. And so what we've done is kept everything, again, as far away as we can. Being just a driveway, what we that the planning board approved was just, this will come, it'll run off by grade coming down towards this way. This Form A lot, when it's built, will keep the grading, surface grading this way as well as here. It'll come down in this low area here. There's a small depression, so most of your runoff from the driveway will come into here, and then we just have a long takeoff channel that will come down, on this lot and go through, your riprap swale at the end. Again, what you see is it was what the plan board approved. We again, I think most of the neighbors were a lot happier than what they were looking at at the beginning of the process.
The stormwater management that's in effect now, Would that change anything on this if that weren't in effect? I'm trying to see what changed it because of the bylaws, if anything.
Yes, if it was not in effect, they would just build the thing the way they're showing it here.
Yeah.
With the stormwater permit that we'll issue at the next meeting when I write it up,
Right.
it would require roof drains, pump out areas for any dewatering activities, a dedicated entrance pad of stone so that they're not tracking mud out into the street and having it washed down and getting into the catch basins that are down at part of the next development.
Right.
There would be erosion control requirements that are not related to the wetland, so that if we wanted to protect this area over here from any of the sediments while it's being built, because we all know by the time these things get permitted, it's gonna probably be January and the water's just gonna run like it was paved. So we wanna be able to protect them, so we're gonna institute those kind of things, and if that was nowhere near wetlands, we have no right to ask them to do that, but because of the stormwater bylaw, we do. So it is a very helpful tool.
If I can interject, some of the, I think this neighbor was at the meeting, last two we had, and his concern was what was already coming onto his property. And what we did, with the planning board review and is we did create this swale so that we're catching almost all of what used to come over here, at least for this half of a lot, and we're redirecting it, that it's all coming down to gathering in this area here and moving around. That is what I saw most of the concern. The natural flow of all this comes all the way down to the wetlands here. And I understand what John was saying, that, in this particular case here, would you use the wattle, John? The 8-inch, or what do you use for the wattle, as far as the erosion control size?
The 12 inch.
So what John's talking is, I think, is just wherever we have the construction, the limits of construction, we wrap this around, certainly around in this area, I would think, to control whatever grade change that's going to happen with the open field that's there now. You can see where these darker contour lines, well, that's really the limit of our grading into the natural, so a lot of this isn't even going to be touched. It's going to remain the natural, excuse my bad.
It's hard to see it on a view like this unless you look at the elevations to see how you got the flow
Right.
going.
So whether you had this 1 lot or 6 lot, you would have been improving the water flow anyways, towards the neighbors anyways.
Yeah, we would have, yeah. And yet, again, we really coming in with, these 2 lots are, even though it's advertised 6, these are, they were existing Form A lots. What we wanted to do was incorporate them to show what effect, if any, it would have, and where that drainage is going. It handles both the Concom and the planning board. But now we went from the, we still have the 2 Form A, but this was 4 lots, and we just converted it down to 1. And certainly, John, I would imagine you would want, again, the flow, the runoff flow is going this way, something that you'd probably come down towards the backside here.
Right.
And come back and around. We can almost connect it here, just separate.
So what I'll do is in the permit, describe how that has to be done, so that we can go out and adjust it if it's needed, so you're not pigeonholed to a certain format. We can be pretty flexible at the site when we need to make a change out there.
So you're improving that whole piece of property anyways.
Yeah,
it's
it's a tough piece of property.
It is, but if you'd left it the way
most
it
of the
is,
people, residents around it.
the
know
neighbors,
that.
they've been getting water in there no matter what, so this will probably,
At least the
If
surface water
anything-
be,
will help prevent
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, we know it's tough to explain that to a lot of the, the layperson.
Yeah.
That, they have the problems, we understand that, but this certainly is a better solution for, again, it was the applicant and the homeowner came together with agreement to go ahead and just develop it into 1 lot. You're cutting down the construction cost of a full road. Construction costs of the building of the homes, even though they'd be pretty nice homes, but in this particular case, it really suits best suits the land.
So how much of the rest is the rest of the property? How many acres?
Well, this one lot here is 193,000, almost 194,000. If you look on the other side, you can pretty much.
Is it gonna be left under
It's,
61? Is it under farmland right now?
This particular part, Craig owns all of this land out here,
Yeah.
so he needs to maintain the minimum 5 acres.
5 acres,
And
Yeah,
that's what he
for the
wanted
rest
to
of it.
do. Right,
So for
right.
this one, it'll be under the,
This is coming out
Out
of
of
whatever
it,
that,
okay.
That'll be done by the attorneys now,
Yeah.
whether they're gonna sell it like that. Craig is really trying to sell his property as well as health reasons.
Yeah.
But I guess the bottom line is that this whole area out there is not gonna be developed.
It's gonna remain natural, in itself, the 100-foot buffer prevents anyone, even the new owners from coming in, with everything they would have to do. I know you're not the policeman, but.
because that was my
this
next
is all
question,
gonna
John.
be-
At this point, I know we're outside of the 100, so we're not dealing with the jurisdiction for the town bylaws. However, under stormwater management, is there a way we can require, I'm just foreseeing that we're gonna be policing this on a regular basis, because that backyard is gonna get into that 50 really quick. And it's gonna slowly creep further and further. And I'm just wondering, is there any way to get markers or get something?
To prevent from what? yeah,
Otherwise,
lot.
we're gonna be doing enforcement orders like other ones that we
Mhm.
recently had to do with new development that,
And I know the neighbors will be monitoring that property
Mhm.
and will be hearing. So-
Yeah.
right, but I mean, I'd rather like to play nice at the beginning than have to send a nasty letter saying you've violated the town bylaw and now you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Stick
Well, I
something
think
up
the
there.
demarcation, John, maybe you certainly we could put the hay bales at the 100-foot line and whatever signage, what do you think, it's signage, something that's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I wanna give them as much of their yard as they're allowed to use. I'm just
Right.
concerned where we know there's a isolated wetland out there that somewhere where we can make,
It's happened before, so we'll prevent it from happening
Many
again.
times.
So let's put it in the permit and see where it goes.
okay. I mean, I'm just trying to,
So
Prevent
there's, yeah,
it.
because I mean, they could even
Just
stick a
right
shed out
here.
there.
or the pool or whatever, and
Well,
we're
if
not
you
gonna
wanna-
see
you
it
wanna
or.
stick a pool out there later on down the road, yeah.
So-
So prevent it from happening.
So if we put it in the permit and the
It's-
owner doesn't like it,
So up in
he can
here.
appeal it,
Yeah, it's
So the Form A is,
which means
right along
Superior
the
Court, but
these two.
yeah, these
And
two,
then it's
Yeah.
the owner
That's
of the
just-
new,
yeah.
of the new property.
well, it'd
The
be,
other option too is if maybe, well, if they were to venture to do more than, again, it's a pretty good sized lot. I mean,
Right.
if I were buying that home to build it, with it, that to me is a real estate lot.
yeah.
And I would think you'd want to leave a lot pretty natural because you.
I don't know, those
this
four
is
horses
real-
look like they're gonna be out there really quick.
I don't think anybody can afford horses anymore, can they? Yeah.
Oh, I've seen them on
You're right.
104 in Bridgewater, so I know where they're putting them.
But again, the good thing about this is the size of the
Yeah.
lot. There's plenty of ample area for them to, install sheds or something.
Put their
like this.
pool, have
How
their
big
play
is the
area.
lot?
do-
Yeah,
Yes,
most of
they
the
can't
time
read
your
it.
pools are up next to your house. They connect them as close as they can, fence them, and
big.
be done with it. But other activity, you're not gonna be able to control until it comes to your attention, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do whatever you have to do.
so I would recommend that we'll put it into the permit that we require the signs as well.
Okay. Right. Anybody have anything else?
No.
All right, then, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I will entertain a motion to issue a general stormwater permit with
Condition?
noted conditions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And congratulations, I
Thank
think
you.
you're our
Thank you.
first stormwater management
Everybody
permit
happy?
application.
I love to be the beginning.
And I have to give him credit that he talked with everybody involved and explained the cost of doing
Yeah.
something that was gonna be extraordinary
Yeah.
and had them thinking about it. If more engineers would do that, I think people would build a smaller development,
Yeah.
less costs, less impact on the whole resource areas,
Mhm.
and come out far ahead in terms of the profit margin, because it doesn't make sense to build 6 when you can really do 3, let's say, and have a reduced cost and still leave all this open space.
And if I can also add that, a lot had to do with the client, Dave Cruz, who was, he heard it, he listens. He's a good client. Thank you, Ben.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Item
Go.
3.
Going back to number 3, which was 265 East Center Street. John was recommending to continue the public hearing anyways.
Since they're not here, apparently they either forgot about it or my feeling is they probably forgot, so I would just continue it.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to September 4th.
Make the motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Moved. Vitz Way, 261014 has asked for a continuance. And they want to go until September 4th as well. So I'll entertain a motion to continue to September 4th.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. John, it looks like we're up to number 6, 55 Crescent Street.
Yeah, that was continued to the 4th,
Okay.
and same with
Yep.
the airport.
Airplane one.
So number 8 is just to bring to your attention that the ORAD that the commission approved for Pleasant Street for Hargreaves.
Mhm.
It was the piece of land that's near the big blue commercial industrial building on Pleasant Street, where all the concrete rubble is
Yep.
stored. He had come in and we approved a wetland line that basically surrounded the outside portion of the property, and DEP stepped in, didn't agree with it based on some historical mapping and different documents that they discovered. And so they recently issued a superseding order that said the line is incorrect. And basically what that means is the ORAD has no standing at this point. So Mr. Hargreaves immediately filed an appeal and gave us notice that he's filed it with the department level at Boston rather than at Southeast Regional Office, which is the one that issued the superseding ORAD. So that'll probably spend quite a bit of time going through the legal process, and eventually something will come out of it, most likely some type of arbitration rather than going right to court. So I think that'll play out over next year or two. And then the only other item is the Grace Church is going to be occupying a good chunk of that Hockomock Plaza building. And they want to put in varying amounts of seats and chairs inside of it, and lo and behold, they weren't meeting the parking requirements and the septic requirements for something that big. So they're going through a review process with the various regulatory boards, and won't need to go through this commission until they have to enlarge their facility in some way, whether it's the parking, and they have to
Backside.
go out to that gravel parking area and improve that. If they do that, then it triggers coming into the commission. But right now, all they're planning to do is line different parking spaces on the existing blacktop. So it doesn't trigger coming before us. But I do want to send, as my report indicates, that I want to send the planning board and anyone else that's reviewing this, whether it be the building department or zoning board, that just like with Market Basket, we don't want the snow dumped over the fence and into the wetlands. And so I want to have some provision in there that they approve it with signs that prohibit pushing the snow into the wetlands behind the building. They can stockpile it out where the old antiques shop used to be and stockpile it there. But they can't put it out in the wetlands.
Is that septic system under the parking lot, or
It's a mounded area to the east or to the right
To
side.
the right of
if
the
you're looking.
building.
to where, almost to where the old antique place was?
Yeah,
Behind it.
It would have
Yeah.
been behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't they, yeah, they just did that over not too long ago, right?
Yeah, they took the old, the septic? I don't know about the septic.
Something, I think, because it isn't raised up a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, all right.
I know they tore the antique place down and then regraded that whole area, but I don't think they touched the septic.
Okay.
Under the part other on the agenda, we're going to invite the homeowner at 153 Scotland Street to come in for a violation. I don't know whether anybody's taken a look or driven by there, but he's brought in tens, if not maybe 100 loads of fill and built up beside his driveway and behind it, and done quite a bit of grading.
Where's this?
Almost where
Going towards
Maple
Bridgewater?
Street is, with the Maple Street extension.
Oh, really?
It's two houses down from where the Maple
Side-
Street,
The side towards the highway?
the
or-
highway side.
What number is it again?
153.
That's all.
I had to go out there with the building inspector, and if anybody wants to take a look.
Oh, my God.
And that's not completed. There's been more brought in since these were taken.
Wow.
Um,
I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
These people,
Yeah, so, and it's no engineering, no drainage plans, no nothing presented or done.
Who's doing the excavating?
The homeowner himself.
So he must have a company then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he got the equipment or anything, but it's not, I mean, from what the neighbors are saying, it's,
The pick where you're
Wonder
gonna,
what's the intention, do you know?
we don't know. That's why we figured we would invite him into our next meeting,
so,
to just tell us, hey, what's going on, and just so you know, you're gonna need engineered plans. You've pushed all the debris from the stumps and stuff into the wetlands behind the property.
so why can't we just say, take it
Cease and
out?
desist
You-
Well, we're going to,
Why
but we
can't-
just figured we'd invite him in
first.
first to be friendly, and instead of just sending a nasty letter, like,
Maybe he's watching television.
Hopefully.
I mean, You guys
There
wanna
are
take a look
wetlands
if you-
at the rear.
you can scroll either side,
There
but
used to be a lawn all the way from the back of the house to this wetland area.
Yeah, but they were lucky they got the lawn.
Yeah, and it
well, the
probably took
chickens
them a while.
swim in the spring where their chicken coop is, so I'm sure that's why he wanted to fill it
Buyer
in.
beware.
And not only do you have the wetlands and anything within 100 feet,
The wet here.
they've obviously altered more than 5,000 square feet of area, which is basically a 50 by 100 foot spot. So they've altered more than that, and the stormwater regulation kicks in as well. So
Really should go right back behind all these
Yeah.
houses. Yeah. I mean, he's filled
I haven't been
all
on
the
that
way
road in
back
a
to that
while.
tree line.
So
Well,
that's gonna divert
I
the
got a
water.
call
Right, it's
about
going
the
somewhere.
use of four-wheelers and dirt bikes circulating around his property, and the neighbors were quite concerned. So I went out and I couldn't see any wetland violation. So Tim sends me a text or an email while I was on vacation, and I said, oh yeah, I've been out there, took a look at it, I didn't see anything at the time. He sends me the pictures, and I go, yep, you better send them a enforcement order. So what I would recommend is that I'll write a letter, ask him to come in explaining that he is in violation, but that it would be beneficial to have a discussion about it before they go too much farther or go off the deep end type of thing, so.
Go off the deep end. Jeez.
And the only other thing I have, I'm gonna send around, it's a, basically it's a listing for everybody to take a look at, what information you want us to have for cell phones, addresses, emails. And there's a little column to the right of each one, and you just put a yes or no if you want it listed as public information. The selectmen sent around a form a few years ago for listing of emails and phone numbers and contact info for them, and they had asked on that form, do you want this released to the public? Do you want it to be public record? And we haven't updated it recently, but we've also had requests within the town hall to give out some of our information. And they said before they do that, I want us to feel
How much do we
comfortable.
have to give out? Do you know?
None.
None?
They can contact through the conservation office. I mean, or they can Google us if they want to find us, they can find us, but
And,
I will take the hit, and I do not mind having my
Come on,
email
Mo.
or my cell phone given
Come
out.
on, Mo, put yours down.
Huh?
Yeah.
But,
they get enough now.
right, I mean, that's,
You cut my budget.
I mean, we are all volunteers, so. Not like we have company phones and company emails and.
He's put down. I'm gonna put down be pleasure too.
Be what?
Come pleasure too.
And we have stuff to sign.
All right.
First Ventura Avenue.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Sorry.
I don't blame him, Mo.
They don't want me anyway. Oh, you want you.
How's the construction going down in your neighborhood?
Which construction?
The intersection?
Oh, good. Yeah.
They're moving right along. I mean,
Well, someone made a very good comment. They said, you know, if there isn't a left-hand turn signal there, it's going to destroy every. So I'm assuming they're going to put one in.
I would hope so.
I would hope so.
Yeah, otherwise, you're just going to back up and people will wait.
Yeah.
I found the disruption to be minimal.
It's
Yeah,
not bad
I-
at all. It's moving. You know, there was a period the other day for about an hour when it was backed up almost to the lights.
Did they say how
I think
long
they
it's
were
gonna be?
moving equipment around. I don't think it'll be long.
No.
I actually haven't been that way recently to see. Did they have to trench anything for the wires and stuff, or were they able to bore? Because I've seen a couple lately where they've just bored right under the road and gone basically 4 lanes almost without disturbing any of it.
Oh, well.
They widened
just
it.
doing-
Of course, they're widening it.
Right, but they, for all the conduits, they just, however they did
That's
it,
what
they
did.
did
Yeah.
horizontal boring, so they didn't
did
have
a
to.
small hole maybe to push them through. But
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah,
that,
but there wasn't any real disturbance of pavement. I was like impressed. I'm like, why can't the gas company do that?
They don't. No.
No, they like to dig up holes in the pavement. And,
In zigzag lines.
yeah. Other than that, I don't think we have anything else. Does anybody have? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
To close.
A second.
Moving second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Yippee.